Well, it's the 7th of September 2022. How are you doing? A very good morning wherever you're watching us from. This is Kirk in the morning. My name is Vincent Kurosi, inviting you, welcoming you for this very particular morning show that will run from this time until around 10 a.m. We have a lot lined up for you, but most importantly is to talk about what we expect going forward now after the Supreme Court ruling and upholding the win of William Ruto as the president-elect. Things already rolling towards Tuesday next week when he will officially be sworn in as the 5th president of the Republic of Kenya. That and more is going to make our talk this morning. But you know, as we do, first things first, traffic update. Yeah, let's have a look at the city roads this morning. Looking at Langata Road leading to the city, a little bit of snarl up between the roundabout of Timol and Nyayo roundabout there. A little bit of a snarl up headed into the city. Moving just closer to that Mbagathi Way or Raila Odinga Road right out about now. A little bit of a snarl up again, holding to Ngong Road. It doesn't look good at all. Again, it's because of the weather this morning. It's a little bit chilly, a little bit drizzling this morning. So we know that the speed on the roads is a little bit moderated. That could be what is happening on the roads this morning, because there are a little bit of, there are more snarl-ups than usual on the major roads leading to the city. Even Mombasa Road, beginning around Bellevue all the way to Nyayo roundabout. There is a little bit of a traffic jam. Moving on to Ngong Road on my gadget here. Ngong Road doesn't look good at all as well. As I told you, the junction and the roundabout that holds the two roads, Mbagadwe and the Ngong Road, a little bit a snarl up there heading to the city. Again, doesn't look good. I'm trying to look at the avenues in the city and how they look, if I may be able to find that. They don't look as bad, because I'm looking at Kenyatta Avenue here and it's not a bad one. Maybe a little bit of traffic on Valley Road and the roundabout holding Kenyatta Avenue. But into the city, it's a junky morning this morning. You have to be ready and prepare yourself, because as usual, when the weather is as it is this morning, then things don't look so well in our roads as usual. So what you have to do, plan your time, get out of the house as early as possible, and make sure that you catch up with what you want to do as early as possible, because it looks that you are going to have a long morning on the roads this morning. That is what is happening on the roads, and that's the traffic update. The road this morning, the traffic update. We believe that things will open up a little bit as time goes by, as the sun rises, and as it gets open this morning. We believe that things are going to open up and the roads are going to be more friendly a little bit, because as we speak now, it doesn't look good. But again, you're always advised, when it is as chilly as it is and foggy, what you have to do is to make sure that you regulate your speed, because at such junctures, then it's easier for these unnecessary accident to happen and take place on our roads if we are not careful. So what we can advise you from us is that make sure that you are careful on the roads and super keen, because it is easier to cause an accident during this time, because the roads are also very slippery. Yeah, after the traffic update, of course, is the newspaper review. But remember that you can engage us this morning on our social media pages, Kirk TV Kenya on Facebook, Kirk TV _KE on Twitter, and as well as Instagram and other, social media, platforms. And we are going to make sure that we engage with you this morning on our topical issue, the transition of power, and among other issues that you're going to speak about this morning, leading into 13th next week, when we will have the President-elect William Ruto sworn into office for his first term as the first president, at his first stab at that seat. So we want to do what? We want to look at what is in the papers this morning. All right, I'm told we already had, the kitambulisho on air. So we go right into the papers this morning. And I'm looking at the two top dailies in the country. I have the Standard with me here, and what is written on the Standard top page: inside Ruto's government, the balancing act. President-elect faces the Herculean task of making a clean break from an outgoing administration which he was part of, and crafting a quality cabinet competing, with regional and gender interests, as well as rewarding allies who stuck with him in the face of intense pressures. This about, what we expect of the government of the President-elect William Ruto once he's sworn in next week. What do we expect to be the face of his government? The Standard wrote that story on the top page, and of course through to page 4 inside Ruto's government. But page 6 is all about the House Speaker battle between Raila Odinga and William Ruto, because we know that there are seats and positions in the National Assembly as well as the Senate where they have to be filled. One of them being the Speaker of the National Assembly as well as the Speaker of the Senate. And, if you look at page 6 of the Standard, there are a little bit of what they have mentioned there, the names that they have fronted, both the Kenya Kwanza and the Azimio la Umoja in the National Assembly. Kenya Kwanza fronting, of course, Bungoma Senator, the leader of Ford Kenya Party. This is Moses Wetangula for that position. And of course, looking at the Senate, they have fronted two names. That is Amason Kingi of PA, and of course Hassan Omar, who just lost in the just concluded Mombasa gubernatorial seat. Hassan Omar and Amason Kingi battling it up for that position, and we wait to see who is going to take it, because Azimio la Umoja as well have fronted former Speaker Kenneth Marende and the leader of Wiper Party, Kalonzo Musyoka, as the two that are going to battle it out to get that slot as the Speaker of the National Assembly. That is what is written in the pages. Of course, page 7 of the Standard talking about the Saudi Arabia job-seeking scandal and tussle, where the lady, or the girl that was, in bondage, as they write here, came back yesterday. But as he came back, others were waiting to flow, to move out of the country and seek those job opportunities in the Saudi Arabia. That's the tussle of life, if we might call it. Some are leaving, some are joining, some are crying. Some want to look at that as an opportunity to have a living. On the top page of the Daily Nation, scramble for hustler cake, eyes on the cabinet. Same story as that on the Standard, eyes on the cabinet. They have fronted pictures there of Musalia Mudavadi, Dave Chirchir, the chief of staff right now at the office of the deputy president, Justin Muturi, Kithure Kindiki, Alfred Mtua. Remember, these were principals in the coalition of Kenya Kwanza. This Moses Kuria, Bab Namwamba, Josephat Nanok, Salem Vuria, Peres Tobiko, some of the names that we expect to make the cabinet of William Ruto. In the National Assembly and the Speaker and the Senate Speakers, four names fronted there. There is Moses Wetangula, Amason Kingi, Hassan Omar, Gladys Sholei Boss, and for that deputy speaker position. So that is what is written in the papers this morning. We are going to discuss deeply with my guest on these stories that are making headlines this morning. But as we always say, just pick your favorite of the copies and read deeply to understand what the journalists are saying this morning. That's the newspaper review segment. All right, we are due for a short break, but we'll be back with more of what we talked about in the papers with guests that we believe shall be joining us shortly when we will delve deeper into the stories, one of them being the scramble for hustler Kirk. Who is going to take what position in the just expected government of the president-elect William Ruto? We are going to talk more about that in a short while. Don't go away. Continue to engage us on our social media pages, Kirk TV Kenya, on Facebook, KirkTV_KE, on Twitter and Instagram, and of course on our SMS number 0111002244. Don't go away. We are back shortly.
Are you looking to grow your business? Kirk TV offers you a variety of advertising opportunities to suit your budget. Advertise with us today and reach your potential customers countrywide. For more information, email us on sales@kirktv.org or call 011 00 90647.
Anamwambia Ibrahimu, ondoka ukaache nyumba ya baba yako. Kuna mambo mtazamaji wangu umekuwa familia kwayo, mambo ambayo umeyazoea kwa muda. Watu ambaye mumezoeana wanajua ukilia, wanajua ukifurahi, wanajua wakati kwako sio kuzuri, wanajua wakati ndoa yako sio salama, wanakuelewa juu na nje na wanakujua hata zaidi ya vile wanavyojijua. Sasa Mungu anakuambia ya kwamba wachana na wao na uwasahau.
Choose life that you may love the Lord your God.
If you delight yourself in the Lord, He will make you fruitful in whatever season you are in.
Listen to His voice and hold fast to Him.
That as disciples ourselves, we're being invited to be transformed more fully every single day.
In our walk with God, let us know that we are assured victory in every battle.
For the Lord is your life.
Live a pure life. Are you living a righteous life before the Lord? It is possible. People are wondering, can you do without corruption? Yes, I can stand and say it is possible to do without corruption.
Don't miss season 2 of the evening epilogue every day at 9:30 p.m. only on Kirk TV.
When the Bible wants to say something has come to an end, they will say they waited for 40 years, for 40 days. 40 is an end of a season.
40, if you read the Old Testament, and it even overflows into the New Testament, is fullness.
You know, something continuous, not just because it's 40 years.
To me, is the victory of the church, that the church was able to embrace women.
And so we also celebrate the many men, the many leaders, our church fathers, who actually sat down and said it is time.
It's a moment of rejoicing over the joys and pains that I've gone through.
And I told God I would want to be a minister like this one.
The ones that cleared the wicked in the forest for us.
Because of the sacrifices they made, the battles they fought, you know, their great commitment.
In all humility, there are those who have been called home. They have paved the way for us.
To be with the Lord home Jesus is still with you.
Jera eno yagothie igoro tihodo todo erena thina muingi no Jesu ariho rugendo ni rwega tutwaranite hegikeno.
Right, welcome back. This is Kirk in the Morning. My name is Vincent Kerosi. Of course, we're expecting our guest this morning, but before then, we want to look at a little bit of what transpired yesterday, one of them being the religious leaders calling upon the President-elect William Ruto to make sure that he unites Kenyans of all fronts, and as well calling upon Raila Amolo Odinga, and calling him a statesman for accepting the ruling of the court and asking him to continue working for Kenyans even when he will not be actually in government.
William Samoei Ruto, we congratulate you on your confirmation as the president-elect. As the president, you'll be the saber of national unity. We urge you to be a leader of all Kenyans, regardless of their political, ethnic, or religious leanings, by demonstrating in word and deed justice and equality. We are praying for you that God will enable you to inspire confidence, dignity, and grace for all Kenyans.
Those who will be our leaders for the next 5 years, let us now focus on energies, on holding them to account so that they deliver justice and faithful implementation of the Constitution and the laws of Kenya, as well as policies and strategies and plans. Let us join hands to continually pray for our nation and for the leaders at all levels, just as we are called upon in our holy scriptures.
We now urge you to take seriously the responsibility Kenyans have bestowed on you. Do not destroy our nation through corruption and selfish gains. Rather, in humility and sense of service, focus on wholesome development of the nation.
Those are religious leaders called upon, or brought together from different religions, calling upon the deputy president, who is now the president-elect, William Ruto, to ensure that he works as a unifying factor to make sure that Kenyans from all fronts of life are united, as well as calling upon the leader of Azimio la Umoja, Raila Odinga, to continue working for Kenyans even in the background, because as they call him, he's a statesman who has been very instrumental for the growth of democracy in the Republic of Kenya. Away from that, same day yesterday, the outgoing Cabinet Secretary for Education, Professor George Magoha, say that now he is willing to work with William Ruto's government if given opportunity. Speaking yesterday, Professor George Magoha reiterated that he is not in any way, auditioning for any job opportunity since he feels that he has delivered in his role granted to him by the Jubilee government. But again, he said that he's willing to continue with the job that he's done if given opportunity.
But if in his wisdom the president-elect thought that I could even be half worthy to be considered, we would have a conversation with him. We would have a conversation with him because I've now connected with the children, the poor children. And if we are thinking in the same direction and he gives me the support that I require, which would mean that I do things the way he wants and not any other person, then you may be, if it is God's will, I will say yes. CBC is not a money guzzler. That's one. It is not a money guzzler. You just must make sure that you get value for money. And it is not going to be easy for government officers to get value for money because they have a culture of doing things in a particular manner.
That's Professor George Magoha, the outgoing Cabinet Secretary for Education. Away from that, with the swearing in of the President-elect William Ruto expected on Tuesday next week, what do Kenyans expect from the new president? Most of them saying they believe and hope that Kenya will move in a different direction as far as economy is concerned, and asking the President-elect William Ruto to ensure that Kenyans come together as one and not neglect other regions that may not have voted for him in full.
Madhumuni yangu ilikuwa huyo mzee Raila Amolo Odinga angeshinda hii kiti, huenda hii sekta nafanyia ya pikipiki hapa South Sea, huenda angeboresha hii sekta yangu kwa wingi sana, kwa sababu watu wawili, tukirudi ile awamu ya pale nyuma tuliambiwa kwamba sekta ya bodaboda itaimarishwa. Sasa tuko na miaka 10, wale waliongea wataimarisha, ndio watu bado wamechaguliwa. Sasa mimi kwa maoni yangu naona huo mzee vile mahakama imeamua tudumisha amani, lakini kitu ya muhimu especially upande wangu na jamii yangu nimesononeka sana. Ndio nilitarajia huo mzee atapita, angalau tupate ile opportunity ya kufanya kazi. At least sector za pikipiki ipanuliwe, tukue na sako, tukue na wale wafadhili. Lakini sasa inasononeka tena, nitakaa miaka ingine 10 nikiwa ndani ya hii mashida nimekuwa nikipitia kwa hii miaka 10 imepita.
Sasa labda tu watulie, wakuwe na amani, alafu waongoje tuone venye mabadiliko itakuwa. Hata kama Uhuru amekuja kutengeneza barabara, kwa hivyo maybe Ruto atakuja atutengenezee kwingine tena. But security ikue na amani ikue.
Ile kitu imepitisha iko tu sawa, si kinyi tunataka, mambo iendelee, kazi iendelee, watu warudi kazi.
Na wito wako kwa Kenya labda kuhusiana na amani?
Amani najua iko kila mahali, hakuna mtu sasa atapigana. Unapiga nani? Sasa kila mtu anang'ana na maisha yake. Unapiga mtu mwenye kesho ndio mnasaidiana, hakuna mtapigana.
Tukue na umoja. Azimio siseme mahakama imeamua vibaya, yenye naomba ni amani tu.
Mimi naona iko sawa kwa sababu tunataka tuendelee na kazi zetu. Juu tukikaa tu kama watu tunabishana, tunasema maneno mingi, hatuta achieve what we are needing, kwa sababu watoto wako shuleni, kazi hakuna, mambo ya hapa na pale kwa sababu tunataka tuendelee na kazi zetu. Juu tukikaa tu kama watu tunabishana, tunasema maneno mingi, hatuta achieve what we are needing, kwa sababu watoto wako shuleni, kazi hakuna, mambo ya hapa na pale kwa sababu tunataka tuendelee na kazi zetu. Juu tukikaa tu kama watu tunabishana, tunasema maneno mingi, hatuta achieve what we are needing, kwa sababu watoto wako shuleni, kazi hakuna, mambo ya hapa na pale kwa sababu tunataka tuendelee na kazi zetu. Juu tukikaa tu kama watu tunabishana.
Loads of expectations from Kenyans there, talking about what they believe and hope the new government will put in place going forward, talking about education, talking about economy and business, and of course talking about peace and unity as a country. Remember that 7 million or so voted for the winner, 6 million or so did not, voted for the other. So there is a divide right in the middle, but we believe and hope that the new government coming up will ensure that Kenyans continue to coexist and work together as a people. Now, we want to look at what is happening next week as the preps for the swearing-in ceremony of the new government are in top gear. The Assumption of Office Committee, led by Head of Public Service Joseph Kinyua, says that Tuesday, the 13th, now will be gazetted as a national holiday.
In keeping with President Kenyatta's firm commitment to facilitate a smooth transition to the incoming administration, as announced yesterday, I'm pleased to notify the nation that I have this morning chaired a meeting of the Assumption of the Office of the President Committee. The meeting was preceded by the decision of our nation's apex court that upheld the declaration of His Excellency William Ruto as President-elect. We convened this morning to progress on the preparations for the transition from the 4th administration to the 5th administration that have been ongoing from the 12th of August. The peaceful and orderly transition in administrations is hallmark of our democracy and an essential testament of a nation's status as a beacon of stability, democracy, and the rule of law. The mandate bestowed upon the committee is sacred, and the burden of that responsibility is heavy. We are cognizant that we are called upon to exercise this solemn mandate with fidelity to our laws and with the aspirations of our North Star, that is the Kenyan people. Today's meeting featured the representatives of the President-elect, including Mr. Davis Shishiro, Honorable Justin Moturi, Honorable Gladys Bose Cholei, and Ms. Veronica Maina. Would like to inform the nation that the swearing-in ceremony and inauguration of the new administration will be held in fidelity with Article 141 of the Constitution, being the first Tuesday following yesterday's decision by the Supreme Court upholding the declaration of the EIBC. That date is Tuesday, 13th September 2022, and the ceremonies shall be held at Moi International Stadium, Kasarani. The date of the swearing-in will be a public holiday of general observance throughout the territory of the Republic of Kenya. The formal gazette notices will be issued later in the week. The process of the swearing-in event and the inauguration ceremony are elaborately set out under both the Constitution and the statute law. The President-elect shall take the oath of office as administered by the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary before Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice. As per the law, this must take place any time between the hours 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Thereafter, the President-elect will also be sworn in. The Deputy President-elect will be sworn in. With the presidential election cycle now behind us, the swearing-in and the inauguration ceremony is an opportunity for the nation to not only witness and usher in our nation's fifth administration, but also to celebrate the strength and vibrancy of our constitutional and democratic processes, which differentiates Kenya from so many other nations in Africa and beyond. For that reason, the eyes of Africa and indeed the rest of the world will be on Kenya on that day. In that regard, all Kenyans are invited to be part of this historic event.
Well, 26 minutes actually to the top of the hour. We are due for another short break, but we'll be right back with our guest who has already arrived in studio, where we are going to delve deeper into our conversation this morning. Transition of power. What do we expect going forward after Tuesday next week. Don't go away. Continue to engage with us on our social media pages, Kirk TV Kenya on Facebook, Kirk TV_KE on Twitter, and of course on our SMS number 0341002244. We are going to look at that shortly, so don't go away because we are due back with our guest in studio.
Choose life, that you may love the Lord your God.
If you delight yourself in the Lord, He will make you fruitful in whatever season you are in.
Listen to His voice and hold fast to Him.
That as disciples ourselves, we're being invited to be transformed more fully every single day.
In our walk with God, let us know that we are assured victory in every battle.
For the Lord is your life.
Live a pure life. Are you living a righteous life before the Lord? It is possible. People are wondering, can you do without corruption? Yes, I can stand and say it is possible to do without corruption.
Don't miss season 2 of the evening epilogue every day at 9:30 p.m. only on Kirk TV.
Are you looking to grow your business? Kirk TV offers you a variety of advertising opportunities to suit your budget. Advertise with us today and reach your potential customers countrywide. For more information, email us on sales@kirktv.org or call 011 00 90647. Losing a beloved one can be one of the hardest life experiences. Death brings a total change in many setups, the family taking a huge position. Death also provides an opportunity to celebrate the departed and their achievements on earth. Kirk TV provides for you an opportunity to announce death and funeral at affordable fee. For more information, write to us via announcements@kirktv.org or call 011 00 90647.
Where there is no vision, the people perish.
You'll find people talking about saying, we discussed this for the last 5 meetings or for the last 2 years or 3 years, but nothing seems to move.
Here on Effective Manager, we help you get leadership and managerial tips.
You cannot be popular in the workplace as a leader. You can only be respected because of being fair and providing leadership.
Strategy and board advisory.
You do not need to put in unnecessary and undue pressure.
Stimulate new ideas in leadership and management.
You get an opportunity to bring diverse views and ideas to a problem so that you can be able to identify a lasting solution.
You can't afford to miss The Effective Manager with Dr. David Muturi, Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. only on Kirk TV.
When the Bible wants to say something has come to an end, they will say they waited for 40 years, for 40 days. 40 is an end of a season.
40, if you read the Old Testament, and it even overflows into the New Testament, is fullness.
You know, something continuous, not just because it's 40 years.
To me, is the victory of the church, that the church was able to embrace women.
And so we also celebrate the many men, the many leaders, our church fathers, who actually sat down and said it is time.
It's a moment of rejoicing over the joys and pains that I've gone through.
And I told God I would want to be a minister like this one.
The ones that cleared the wicked in the forest for us.
Because of the sacrifices they made, the battles they fought, you know, their great commitment.
In all humility, there are those who have been called home. They have paved the way for us.
To be with the Lord home, Jesus is still with you.
njĩra ĩno ya gũthiĩ igũrũ ti hũthũ tondũ ĩrĩ na thĩna mũingĩ no Jesũ arĩ ho rũgendo nĩ rwega tũtwaranĩte he gĩkeno.
Families should be the epitome of love. But in recent times, this seems like a dream because all we're witnessing is rape cases, high divorce rates, betrayal, and even murder.
So you have to protect her.
You say maintaining marriages because racist.
There are also many who are going through issues in their marriages and they can't run to anybody.
The issue of killing, the issue of murder seem to be on the rise.
And that is why we bring you Transforming Families, where we are all about just that, transforming families.
So catch Fit to Live every Monday through Friday at 6:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Together, let's have fun, get fit, and stay healthy. My name is Aida Munzati. I'll be your host for this show. Remember, your health always matters.
I take this opportunity to welcome you once again to Kirk in the Morning. Vincent Kirk, my name, now joined in studio by our guest called Peter Njage. This is an advocate of the High Court and a mediator. Karibu sana Bwana Peter.
Thank you.
I would like us to talk a little bit about mediation. Are you a mediator on what in particular?
That's a good question. Well, I'm a judiciary accredited mediator.
Okay.
I was appointed as such in 2016, and that was during the tenure of Honorable Justice Mutunga, because the court discovered that you can have alternative justice system, that not every court matter that goes to court has to go through the whole process. So I'm based in Milimani High Court, Family Division and ELC Division, Land Matters, whereby I assist the court to solve some matters out of court. And it's a very good thing because if you look at the judiciary current, it has shown that mediation works, because some of these cases that have stayed for too long in court, when they're referred for mediation, you're likely to have three outcomes. You can have a full settlement, you agree on everything, you report back to court. You can have a partial settlement, you agree on point 1, 2, and 3, you leave 4 and 5 to court, or you can have no settlement at all. So mediation works.
It works.
It works.
Can you mediate between the outgoing president and the president-elect? Because it looks we need mediation there.
Absolutely. If I'm called for the task, I think I'm equal for the assignment, for the purposes of cohesiveness and the unity of this country.
Karibu sana. I want us to have a look at what transpired in the Supreme Court before we even move further now to look at the transition to the next government. What transpired in particular in court that I want us to look at is the outcome of the petition compared to 2017. 2017, the petition or the election, the presidential election to be precise, was annulled because of the court adjudged it as being, the process being flawed. In 2022, out of the 9 pleads or prayers that were presented by the petitioner, were all struck out. Can you compare the two scenarios? Why 2017 and 2022 look like 2 worlds apart?
Thank you. Maybe before we get to the outcome of the two petitions, 2017 and the most recent for 2022, you have to look at it in the context of what you call the umpire or the court or the judges. On one hand, in 2017, there was a dissent, meaning not all judges came to the same conclusion, but the majority had to carry their day. And I think one of the judges was indisposed that time. The Honorable Justice Ibrahim was not sitting. So it was a 6-judge bench. I think it was 4 against 2. So that now there was a dissent of people who felt differently. That's very different now when we had a full bench of 7 judges and it was a unanimous decision that they did not find merits on the outcome. But maybe to the listener and to our viewer, what needs to be looked into the context is that the court in 2017 was talking about the process, so that you have to look at the process for you to determine how the outcome came out. In 2022, the court said that you also have to look at the numbers, because you cannot disturb the numbers. Even if you have to look at the process retrospectively, it will not affect those numbers outrightly. So I think one was more about the substance, whereas the other one was about the form. I think that is a major question between the two. But by and large, for 2022, which is the most recent one, the court was of the considered view that in event that you don't show that those numbers would change, or those numbers would ultimately give a disparity from the will of the people, or those numbers would tilt otherwise, you don't have then to annul a presidential election, because the burden of proof this time round, I need to put it was put a bit higher than that time. Because we live in an adversarial court system, whereby it is one who presents his case more, the one who is believable, the one who is more convincing, the one who is more appealing to the court. If you look at the 2022 election, I'm of the view that we adopted a French system of litigation. And the French use something called an inquisitorial system, whereby the court is an inquiring court. If you looked at how the panel was conducting itself, it was asking questions to the court, meaning because the court is composed of the judges and the bar, who are the lawyers, so that they don't just depend on what you're presenting to them, they're also putting the questions back to you, which now gives more of an interaction. That system, by and large, it is usually found in an inquisitorial system, which is different from our Commonwealth and English law, which was an adversarial. Because you'll be a mere witness that when you go to court, hardly do you see the judge engaging the parties or their lawyers. His or her work is reduced maybe to taking minutes or shorthand or the notes. But in this time round, I think the court adopted a hybrid system, which was good for our democracy and for the growth of our judicial and electoral processes. But as I close on that particular question you've asked, it has to be understood that the burden of proof lies on the one who is alleging. It is not on the person who has won to prove his win. It was on the person who is saying he lost to show that the loss was not in conformity with the constitution and the law. So that now the burden actually laid more on the petitioners to show that those declaration by the IBC and the respondents' win was not an actual win or did not comply. So that now the burden of proof was put a bit higher, which was lower than beyond reasonable doubt, like in criminal processes, because you must show beyond doubt that actually that thing happened. If today I come to you, Vincent, and I'm alleging that after the interview your phone got lost, or you allege that, then somebody is charged here for stealing. So the burden now is higher because that person is supposed, they may lose their liberties. So in a similar fashion, the court was of the view we don't have to look at it in a balance of probabilities like in a civil case. We have to put it, the threshold has to be a bit higher because an electoral process now, the test that the Supreme Court has now given us is that it is a bit higher than balance of probability, but lower than in criminal process beyond reasonable doubt. In simple language, what that means, if you now go to court with an electoral petition, you must have higher threshold of evidence for you to disturb the numbers. So the court will move with self-restraint and they will be very hesitant to disturb such numbers if you don't show that the outcome would be fatally different if the process maybe was otherwise or if such a by-election was granted.
In terms of precedents, from 2013 to begin with, in 2017, 2022, was there progression, was there progress, if I might ask, in terms of precedents and jurisprudence building in Kenya?
Absolutely, absolutely, Vincent. Because if you look at the case of Maina Kiai and 5 others, 2017, the court pronounced itself, and I think that is something that has to be put into context, that the results from the polling station are final. So that now, what used to happen before is that maybe candidate X would garner 1,000 votes from the polling station, but when they go to the tallying center, the returning officer pronounces he has 700 votes. So now the petitioner would come to court, and the court would be put to pains to explain, do we now go with what the presiding officer announced at the polling station that candidate X had 1,000 votes, or do we go with what happened with the tallying center when the returning officer announced 700 votes? So the question is, where did the 300 votes go to? That question was addressed and cured through Maina Kiai and 5 others in 2017 case, whereby the court pronounced itself that the results from the polling station are final. That is a very big jurisprudence and growth of our electoral processes. So that now any person going to an electoral court or seeking to file a petition has to show that the results from the polling station are not actual. Either the 4 ways or 4 tests, you have to look at it. One, you would show maybe like you had so much difficulty that your agents do not maybe enter the polling station. Meaning, even if they are announced from the polling station, your agents were denied the entry. But if they signed, then they confirmed. What I always say for candidates or for somebody seeking elective office or for purposes of growth of our democracy, even if your agent does not agree with the results from the polling station, let them not refuse to sign. They can sign, but right there under protest. Meaning, yes, I have signed, but it's under protest because what was announced is not what I agreed. And the court and the electoral process have really grown because even your agent on the polling station, like even for Azimio, they had the right to ask for a recount at least 2 times. That is how our law is now. You could also argue that yes, the results from the polling station were announced, but I was denied a recount because I felt that what was being pronounced is not necessarily what was there. The other one is whereby there is so much violence that actually accessing it would be difficult, meaning that yes, the results were announced, but they don't reflect the free will of the people. And last is about bribery, or what we call, there's even some cases where you have oathing, so that people are taken through an oath, you're told you have to vote for person X, or you are bribed, so that yes, the polling stations are there, but those results should be disturbed because the will was not free will. There was an inducement, either through money or through threats, say through oathing. So in terms of the growth of our jurisprudence from 2017, 2022, the answer is a resounding yes. There has been tremendous growth in our electoral processes, particularly on which results should be used. The other question, maybe you could also look at it, is in terms of spoiled votes, because those are things that came up. When you're looking at total votes cast, do you also consider the spoiled votes? And the court has made itself very clear that those votes don't constitute part of the outcome, because you should look at, because it's a spoiled vote. So that when you're looking at the outcome of the election, you have to look at it in a very broad perspective. So I think those two questions are very important and integral for purposes of electoral processes.
Maybe an issue that arose from the case again is, you know, Azimio la Umoja were called for a total forensic audit of the technology that was used in the election, because that's part of the process. Now, we know that our elections partly manual and partly electronic, especially when transmitting. That's when the electronic model comes in. They say they were not granted that, according to them. And the court issued the orders, of course. The Supreme Court issued the orders to the IBC and the provider of the service, Mathematics, to allow for that audit. Do you feel this is something that also negates what could have been the outcome of the petition?
Remember that those orders were granted, but they were limited to read only.
Read only.
Which should not be put in the context that they were denied. All those orders were denied, and also it was a supervised access. And we had a neutral third party, because also the court wanted to have its position felt through the registrar of the court. So that there were three players here. There was the petitioner side, there was the respondent side, and there was the registrar side. Now, the question that maybe needs to be addressed is the purpose or the motive for such kind of access of the system. And the issue is that, which was raised, is that access in terms of the read-only would be able to show the nexus between whatever was transmitted and whatever was being relayed at the Bomas of Kenya. And when it's read-only, the court was of the view that you're able to see and actually tell the flow, because if something was intercepted, it could be seen, which is now different from unlimited access, which would cause for re-editing, which would cause for disturbing the system, and actually may also bring challenges in future in event other petitions that should be brought, either for gubernatorial or for other kind of petitions, or for purposes of the hygiene of the system. So by and large, I'm of the view that the access was sufficient, because that access was addressing a question which was raised by the petitioners in terms of the integrity of the system. And the integrity has to be looked in a very broad perspective. Did the system in the first place even, was it able to transmit? And that transmission, did it reflect whatever was on the polling station? Did the system have a foolproof mode, so that when you're transmitting, there would be no avenue of interference, absolutely infringement, or even removing that particular sheet of paper and replacing. Because remember, we were told there's some people who had laptops in the Bomas of Kenya, and some of these questions also beg a very broad interpretation. So that, does it then mean at the point of relaying, somehow that paper is intercepted and another paper is projected? So those are the system questions that arose, and I think the court, based on the reliance from the registrar, was of the view that the system was up to the task.
Now, even as we conclude that particular bit, because we have to take a break in the next minute or so, just in one or two words, the Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya, coalition said, we respect, but don't agree. We disagree in totality, but we respect. What is the significance of that statement in 1 minute, even as we take a break and come back for more?
That statement is borrowed from Al Gore in America, who also was of the same view. And everybody is entitled to their court process, whether it's a petitioners or any litigant. You have the right to agree to the judgment, you have the right to disagree, but I'm also very pleased for that particular statement, because what it meant is that we followed judicial processes as opposed to extrajudicial means to solve our dispute, to solve our discrepancies, to solve our claims. So I think for purposes of democracy and growth, It's kudos to the respondent. They're entitled to their opinion. And what I think in a political angle, because that's a political statement, there are other alternative ways to show their disgruntlement. Remember, we had in 2017, what we had, was it tear gas what?
Tear gas mandate.
Yes. And maybe there could be a go-slow on products or those kind of things, or other ways to heap pressure, or maybe other ways if they feel dissatisfied on how the outcome, on how maybe they can be more pronounced in terms of checks and balances of our institutions and the integrity of our courts.
Yeah. I wanted to come back and talk more politically now about what the road leads going forward as far as after the petition now. What about the transition of power? 3 days now today since the court pronounced itself on the petition, election petition. The outgoing head of state has not acknowledged the president-elect. We are coming back to talk about that and see if they decide not to hand over the sword, what happens. Is there going to be a lacuna or what? We are taking a break. Due back for more. Don't go away. We still have our guest in studio, Peter Njagi, an advocate of the High Court and a mediator, of course, trying to break this and make it simpler for us to understand. Don't go away. We are coming back shortly.
We welcome your feedback on our programming. For questions or comments, kindly get in touch with us via email info@kaktv.org, SMS 0111 220044, or call us on 0794 588 054.
Anamwambia Ibrahimu, ondoka ukaache nyumba ya baba yako. Kuna mambo mtazamaji wangu umekuwa familia kwayo, mambo ambayo umeyazoea kwa muda. Watu ambaye mumezoeana wanajua ukilia, wanajua ukifurahi, wanajua wakati kwako sio kuzuri, wanajua wakati ndoa yako sio salama, wanakuelewa juu na nje, na wanakujua hata zaidi ya vile wanavyojijua. Sasa Mungu anakuambia ya kwamba wachana na wao na uwasahau.
Are you looking for a university that matches your drive and ambition? Choose ZTech University. We offer market-driven programs ranging from master's, bachelor's, diploma and certificate levels in the schools of ICT, Media and Engineering, Education, Arts and Social Sciences, and the School of Business and Economics. Enroll today for September 2022 intake and enjoy a vibrant student experience, ultra-modern and well-equipped facilities, experienced faculty, and a place to pursue your dreams and ultimately change the world. ZTech University. Invent your future.
The Presbyterian Teachers College Rubate is now offering training and upgrading of P1 and ECDE certificates to diploma, and hereby invites all applicants for the September 2022 intake in the following teacher education programs: Diploma in Early Childhood Teacher Education, DECTE, required grade discipline in KCSE. Upgrade of P1 certificate to diploma, upgrade of early childhood teacher education ECDE to diploma. The reporting dates are as from 12th September to 12th October 2022, with the option of part-time classes available. For more information, please contact the principal through 0701 508 503 or their office line on 0720 312 021 and 0711 185 283.
Karibu, this is Kirk in the Morning. My name is Vincent Kirosi, still with our guest in studio. This is Peter Njagi, an advocate of the High Court, and of course, a mediator. Before we went to a break, we alluded to what we want to talk about, and this is the hard stance between the outgoing president and the president-elect. 6 months, because if you heard the speech of the president-elect the other day, he said they have not spoken in months. Uhuru himself not recognizing or acknowledging Ruto as the president-elect in his recorded speech for that matter. It wasn't live, it was a recorded address from State House. Comparing this to what happened in 2013 and 2013 exactly, when there was a transition from the government of Mwai Kibaki now to the Jubilee government. We want to look at that and see how different these situations are. But before then, can we have a listen to that particular soundbite of the deputy president, now the president-elect, William Ruto, talking about their relationship with his boss, the outgoing president Uhuru Kenyatta.
I will shortly be putting a call to my good friend, President Uhuru Kenyatta. We have not we have not I haven't talked to him in months. But shortly I will be putting a call to him so that we can have a conversation on the process of transition. Yeah. I know he worked hard in his own way, but the people of Kenya have made a decision. And we have absolutely no issue with the democratic choices of any Kenyan. You remember I said earlier, when I chose to support Uhuru Kenyatta, I did not give him conditions that he must support me. I have made that very clear.
President-elect William Ruto there in his very first speech after the announcement of the ruling by the Supreme Court that we have upheld his win. Bwana Peter, we look at that and listen to it first. There's something I picked out of that speech. Is it the president-elect to make a call to the outgoing president, or is it the outgoing president to make a call to the president-elect?
As a matter of practice, it is the incumbent who welcomes the newcomer. That is what happens in any government or even in corporate governance, because you don't go inviting yourself or declaring yourself to the office holder. But I think that statement was put in the context of nationalhood and for purposes of maybe breaking the ice, because in any standoff, there must be somebody who must be the bigger person, maybe to break the ice. Because remember, like even in mediation, when people are having a dispute, there's something we call latches, meaning they may go very high, but there must be somebody there who sees it and maybe breaks the ice. So maybe that statement was put in that context, maybe for purpose of showing that they have not been in actual communication, or for purposes of maybe showing that he's ready for the task and he's the new boss in town.
Yeah. The differences have been, well documented for the last 4 years, from 2018 to be precise, just after the handshake. How difficult is it going to be for these people now to come together and talk, iron out their differences, and ensure this smooth transition to the next government?
Remember, Vincent, there's two schools of thought that maybe even the president was supporting His Excellency the Deputy President all through, or now the President-elect. So I think this is a matter of wait and see, because we know that in politics, what appears to be the position may actually not be the actual position.
Yeah.
And I think even from the bromance that they had in their first term, that can always be reignited, because these are former friends, former colleagues, former peers. And I think for the interest of the country and from the goodwill that the Kenyan people have, they should actually translate to the leaders for ease of running the government. But also it has to be put in the context that the president was not a candidate in this particular election, the current sitting president.
But he had interest.
Of course, just like any other Kenyan, you have your democratic right to choose who to support and who to align yourself to. And by his actions, which I think they have to be looked in the retro meaning of the words, he has pronounced himself that he'll hand over the power. So whether he calls the deputy president or not the president-elect, it's immaterial, because he has already pronounced himself that he'll hand over the power smoothly to the winner. He may not agree with the decision of the Supreme Court. He may not agree with the entire whole process of the election processes. But as a Democrat, you have to be compliant with the institutions that we have. And that's the beauty of a civilized society. And I think conduct, to me, is more important than mere words, because we saw the Assumption of Office Committee headed by the Honorable Head of Civil Service, and they're already at a very advanced stage towards liquidating the current tenor for the new administration, and there are formidable steps that are happening at Kasarani. And in as much as may not be agreeable to the outcome, he has pronounced himself through conduct, because conduct also matters in purposes of a transition, because he could as well have refused and maybe could have handed a standoff. It happens, and those are things that are very regrettable. But by his actions, through actual words that he'll transfer power, by his action that the committee is sitting, and they actually even met the representative of the president-elect. I think those people were mentioned in your earlier bulletin. So I think by and large, people also need to heal. Remember, these are very acrimonious and very tight race. So it's only normal and natural that we give all the contenders and the other players time to heal, including the leaders and our people. Because remember also, like the Honorable Deputy Chief Justice made those off-cuff remarks in Supreme Court, there are at 6 million people, 6 million Kenyans who were not on the other side for the winning side. But that's a nature of a democracy. It's 50% plus one, meaning 50% plus even one vote. It is sufficient. So healing is also a part of the process.
Part of the process. If you look at 2013, during this transition from Kibaki government now to the Jubilee government, even before the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy Court filed a petition in the Supreme Court, the outgoing president then, Mwai Kibaki, had already made a call to Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, congratulated them, invited them to State House, shown them around, and even a statement released shortly saying we wish them success as they lead Kenya into the next dispensation. What about now? Why is it so difficult to do that? Because at the end of the day, it must happen. We must transit. We must, liquidate this government and, bring in the new tenure. Why is it so difficult for that to happen, do you think? Is it so personal?
Well, I think that question also has to be looked in 2013. Would the converse happen, assuming it is the CORD team that won then? Would the president then, His Excellency Emilio Mwai Kibaki, would he have done the same actions? Because I also think, in as much as he may not have come out very openly, like the President Uhuru came to support the Azimio candidate, by all conduct and intent purposes, because the conduct really matters in our dealings for electoral processes, also Mwai Kibaki may have been more inclined or malleable with Uhuru presidency, so that it is only natural that those things happened. What would have happened if maybe CORD wants? I doubt that he could have had those kind of warm outcome, warm reception that Uhuru had in 2013. So, in 2022, the converse would also be true. If maybe Azimio leader is the one who won, maybe
It could definitely have happened because the outgoing president is the chairman of the Azimio coalition. So,
as it is said, so essentially those things could have happened. But I think as a people, we need to inform our people that transition will happen on Tuesday in compliance with Article 141 of the Constitution, because the law is very, very clear that all he needs is to take an oath of office before the Chief Justice, or if the Chief Justice is not there, the Deputy Chief Justice.
Yes, I want us to come back now on a thread, talk about transition, but I want us to listen to a particular bite by the outgoing head of state, Uhuru Kenyatta, the day before yesterday, when he made a recorded address from State House talking about how he's willing to, make sure there is a smooth transition of power from his government to the next government.
I made a pledge to the country, a pledge to uphold the rule of law and the decisions made by the judiciary on all matters appertaining to our governance. Today, the Supreme Court made a ruling on the presidential dispute, upholding the results announced by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission on the 15th of August, 2022. And in keeping to the pledge that I made to uphold the rule of law when I took the oath of office, I commit to executing the orders of this court to the letter. The process of handing over is in progress through the Assumption of Office Committee, which actually has already begun its work as of August 10th, 2022. And indeed, it is my intention to oversee a smooth transition to the next administration, and all the necessary orders to facilitate this process have already been issued. I want to take this opportunity to thank every single Kenyan for holding a peaceful election. And for this, I want to thank God, and I want to thank our political parties, but I also want to thank every single individual Kenyan for bringing us thus far. I want to wish well all who have won as they guide our country into the future. And I thank you all for the opportunity to serve, and I say, may God bless you all, and may God bless this great Republic of Kenya. Asante.
The outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta, in his recorded address released the day before yesterday, just after the Supreme Court made its announcement on upholding of the election of William Ruto as the president-elect in the just concluded election. Bwana Peter Njage, looking at this, if you listen to his choice of words, the head of state looked reserved, a little bit, if I might read deeply into it, I don't know if I'm reading deeply, but it looked bitter in his words. And he didn't mention the president-elect in his statement, said, I wish well, all the leaders that have been elected, all. Looking at those choice of words, what's your take?
As you've correctly put it, maybe the president was a chairman of a competitor.
He was. It's documented.
So if indeed that's a choice he took, so he must be ready to bear the consequences for you having put yourself in the murky waters, because it would have been different if like Kibaki, who in 2013 was very, very distant in terms of active participation. But the president had his choice, and he made his choice, and it's only fair that he also eats the cake that he baked. The choice of words, I think, was not what people would have expected, but it was also a good choice because he chose to talk about elected leaders in a wholesale perspective, including MCAs, all the way through the MPs, women rep, governors and senators, because of those are elected leaders. So he wished them well because they want to guide and channel our discourse at this country for the next 5 years based on the mandate that they have from the people. I think that goes back to the initial position that I had adopted, that in as much as he's not mentioning the competitor by name, you must also give credit where it's due, because he's made a very clear position that he's going to hand over power. I think that's something commendable to the president, and I think that's something that we have to give it up to him. Remember, it's even more difficult to hand over power when you already had a position. Remember, he had a position, and the position was in the public domain through association, through active participation, through resources, whether personal or otherwise, and through maybe even voting, because maybe, although it's a secret affair, maybe the few votes that Azimio leader got there, some of it could have come from the president, from the polling station that the president puts in Gatondo. So remember that as a democracy and as a people in the region, hardly do you see, even around the world, the incumbent president easily handing over power. And remember, this is a president also who had already a preferred choice of candidate in that election. So for him to come out openly and say that he's going to hand over power, it's a very, very great yardstick for a democracy. And I think when the books of history are written, particularly on 2022 election, I think the president will have an entire chapter, because he has transited and he has shown through conduct and through action, because it's not merely lip service, because I think by conduct he means what he says. So you could have expected more, maybe to congratulate him, but he really doesn't have to. The fact that he's handing over power, it's enough congratulations, and it's enough, because that's a personal choice to congratulate him, but it's a constitutional mandate to hand over power. So I think constitutionally he's in line. In terms of personal affiliations, that's for him.
In 2002, it happened again, when we were now really moving into a new dispensation from the the Nyayo era into the new government, then now the Rainbow government, that really now began the new journey into our democracy. We thought in 2002 that the outgoing president, then the late Daniel Arap Moi, could not even show up. We thought that he could not show up, he might not show up in the stadium to hand over those instruments of power to the incoming president then, Mwai Kibaki Emilio, but it happened. What scenario do you foresee in this case? Is what if the outgoing head of state decided not to turn up in Kasarani?
From 1978 to 2002, that's close to 24 years, when His Excellency Daniel Richard Moi was in power. He did good things and not very many good things. And of course, in the elections for 2002, he had a preferred candidate in the name and style of Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, who came a distance second in that particular election. But remember, Uhuru, third time, he pronounced himself and conceded defeat. And I think what is happening today is because of the seeds of democracy that we sowed through a competitive transition process. Remember, Moi to come into power in 78 was not particularly through an electoral process, but it was because of the death of the incumbent president, and he naturally took over power according to Section 88 of the old Constitution and took over power through that route. When the death of the president dies, the vice president, under the old constitution, as he was known, the vice president was supposed to take power for 90 days, then elections would happen. Of course, there was an issue with Charles Jones about the passing cloud, and the passing cloud stayed there for 24 years. But in 2002, in as much as he did not support the NAC candidate who won, who was His Excellency Mwai Kibaki, he showed up and handed over power. So fast forward in 2002, we have also a president who has pronounced himself like Moi in 2002, that he preferred another candidate who lost, who was not pronounced the winner. Essentially, the people who've won should handle their win with great humility and restraint, and even their supporters, so that even if the president shows up, the question about booing and humiliation should not happen, because remember, he has also handed over power willfully, and he had also the choice to support a candidate of his choice. But the fact that he has acted in conformity of the constitution, and remember, by him showing up in Kasarani, he'll not be coming here in his own personal capacity, but he'll be coming there as still the head of state, because he's still the head of state as and when the new president takes oath of office in compliance with the constitution, particularly section Article 141. So I think it all boils down to the people who've won, how they're going to manage their supporters, and how they're going to handle this transition, lest they don't handle it with a boastful nature, but they should handle it with humility, meekness, and restraint, because the president had his choice. He made it. It was his own personal democratic right, but we must also congratulate the president, because he also agreed to hand over power in conformity with the constitution. I think that's something that has to be looked and appreciated in a holistic manner.
Can you take us through what we expect to happen on Tuesday, in Moi Kasarani, now transiting from this government to the next one? What do we expect for those of our viewers who might not understand the process?
There is assumption of office committee, and I think that has been giving us heads up in terms of what's happening, and I'm very pleased that at least they're working very closely with the office or the representative of members from the president-elect. Remember, most of these people that are from the Assumption of Office Committee happen to be from the office of the president, the House on the Hill, so they're civil servants. And of course, they take their directions from the candidate who, or from the president who we know did not support the president-elect. So what should happen is that they should work harmoniously in terms of a smooth transition. But there are several things that we're likely to see on Tuesday. Some of them are hinged on the Constitution. Some of them are hinged on our practice as a country. Some of them are hinged on our heritage as a Commonwealth nation, and particularly as a former colony of Britain. Lastly, some of them may also be happen according to the wishes of the president-elect, and I'll take you through a few of them. I think the issue of the sword keeps coming up, whether it doesn't hand over the sword, what should happen, those kind of things. I think I'm of the considered view the sword is not a finality in terms of getting into office, because it has to be looked at it in an entire context. That one is a symbol of authority to guard, to protect, and also to wage war as and when required. So the sword is not hinged in any constitutional threshold that if you don't hand over the sword, then you are not handed over power. It's a symbolic measure, just like whether you have the president as a symbol of unity. What is important here is two individuals, the Chief Justice or the Deputy Chief Justice. Because my reading of Article 141 of the Constitution does not put any constitutional responsibility to the president to show up at Kasarani or to show up to hand over power. It's more symbolic, because these are political contests, and also for purposes of our citizenry, they need to be showing the baton has been passed. The Chief Justice is the one who helps, or an oath or allegiance is taken before. If the Chief Justice is not there, then the Deputy Chief Justice takes over. Just like the way you saw governors taking over of office recently in their respective counties. So what happened there is basically what will happen in national scale, but now that one was being conducted by judges of the High Court. This one will be conducted by the Chief Justice or the Deputy Chief Justice, and of course the registrar will help. Other practices we have is a question like the Bible that he may use. He may have a preferred Bible. He may want to affirm himself without a Bible. He may want to profess another faith. If he's a Muslim, he can use a Quran, or he can take allegiance to, according to the office he's going to get, and of course the fidelity of the law, and uphold the rule of law and the Constitution. And I think that is what President Uhuru is doing, because when he took over power in 2013 and 2017, he undertook to uphold the Constitution. So whatever he's doing is actually in furtherance of the oath he took. And I think he's living to the expectations of the oath he took. The other practices you have as a Commonwealth is the inspection of guard of honor, because he's also the head of what is called now the Defense Forces. So that now, as a commander, he inspects for two reasons: as a show of authority, and two, as a show of submission. That now then he's now the new commander and he can give authority to them. So those are the things that we expect on Tuesday.
So when will be that guard of honor be done? Because we understand that the outgoing head of state will come in and do his. Will it happen after now? Are we going to have two guard of honors? The first one for the outgoing president, and now the next one for the incoming president?
Good question. The president is president until the new president takes oath of office, or when he's handed over power through the constitutional process, because I don't think he has, the position is clear on what he intends to do. This is a state function, and the issue of practice is that the president inspects a guard of honor. He can walk through it. He could also stay on the podium, and they could also pass by. Those are two ways to look at it in terms of inspecting a guard of honor. One of them is the active participation. You walk around the field and you inspect the guard, whether their buttons are okay, whether their shoes are properly polished, as a show of those two things I mentioned. He could also be on the podium and they pass and maybe salutes them or show their respect, and as a show of might, also as a people. Remember, like in COVID 2019, I'm told, it came as a result when China also showcased their military might. And maybe COVID was a pre-planned thing, but it was showing its might. So this guard of honor and this kind of state practices are also meant to show our might for the region, for our neighbors, or for somebody who may think they can aggress Kenya. Because one of the things that we talk about democracy and diplomacy, one of it we have is what we call in diplomatic spheres, restrained aggression, whereby you can show might, so that the Al-Shabaab or maybe any intruder may want to come to Kenya would actually not come because of the view you have enough ammunition. So those are things that you showcase in national holidays, like on Tuesday. And of course the president would want to show that he's handing over a strong country, and one of the strengths of a country, it's measured, is through its military might. So he'll definitely, the military and the armed disciplined forces will play a very pivotal role in the exercise.
Yeah, another thing that is going to happen, of course, is that change of presidential standard. Why is it that every president coming in has his own? The presidential standard, it seems, because yesterday I was, following up and Gladys Bush, shall I say, that the president-elect has already, presented and proposed his colors that he thinks are going to make his standard.
When you say standards, you mean the choice of colors?
That color, that flag specifically. I hear
the
that.
CIC.
Yeah.
Distinction. Yeah. Because you also want to show a new administration is in place, and also you want to show a new office and the new sheriff is in town, including curtains to change the State House and the colors, because these things are based on symbolism. Because what will you be remembered for? Because there's some things that maybe you may see an old Mercedes, it may connote President Moi, because he used to like them. And maybe the flag that he had, if you see how it flag CC and the yellow markings of the red, you may remember Kibaki. So that all these things, they are based on two ingredients. One is that it's a sense of ownership of the new administration, and secondly, it is a sign of a new administration in force, because also don't want to inherit everything from incumbency, which now, if the electorate and the citizen are not happy with a few, they'll be remembering the bad things through you.
It becomes a baggage.
It's a so you'll have to carry their burden. So you want any president or any person coming to new office, even here like ACTV, you may want to bring your own people, because you may want to bring a new administration in place, including the symbols of power, including the flag you'll be flying.
I want us to look at what awaits the president-elect once he's sworn in. But before then, there is something of significance that we expect and we really hope should happen at Kasarani, having Uhuru Kenyatta there, William Ruto and Raila Odinga there. Of what significance is that, or will that bring to a country like Kenya in terms of national healing cohesion?
Very well. Even the scriptures tell us that a cord of three strands is very strong. And when those three gentlemen are there, it reminds me of the African stool, which is three-legged and it's a very strong stool. So by them being there, one, I am of the view that in terms of whatever happened in court, that was a legal part, and the legal part pronounced itself. But the legal part has to be looked in the context of what is active on the ground, or the political goodwill. So by them being there, it would easily fast-track two things in my considered view. One, it could fast-track healing, because there are people who are not happy with the outcome for the Supreme Court, though they had to accept it. There are people who are not happy because their candidate did not win the presidency. But by them being there, it actually catalyzes the process of healing and moving forward. Secondly, it also brings a question in terms of the democratic processes you have in this republic, because as a candidate who was actively involved in the presidency election, he, being a candidate, had the view to win, and he was of the view he may win. Things have happened otherwise, so that him showing up there would actually also assist in terms of the growth of our democracy in this country, in other elective posts, in the region, Africa, and beyond, so that the outcome of the election doesn't have to create the enemies, or it doesn't have to aggravate to extrajudicial ways of solving the disputes, like the extrajudicial means we witnessed in a very regrettable fashion of 2007, which led to the ICC cases. So I think also those things and those history we have, I think every candidate and every leader moving forward, because we've been there, nobody would want to go through the same route that we went through that route. Nobody would want to go to a foreign country to answer to charges. And I think those are things that have to be looked at, what has really harnessed our system and what has harnessed our processes. Lastly, is that also the president being there, and also he had a different view, shows that yes, you can disagree with a candidate, but in as much as you disagree, you are duty bound by the constitution to conduct your mandate. And I think those are issues that would help even other elective posts, people who may not be happy about gubernatorial outcomes, senatorial, MP, MCA, women rep, they may have a different view, but that's what happened in the elections. And if they've gone through the process of the court, because you bring your grievances, and the court has withheld the election of those kind of a candidate, so they have no option other than maybe to live with it. So I think it's going to have a trickle-down effect. Remember, a fish rots from the head, and if the head is also good, also the entire body is good. So I think it's going to be a good thing if all of them show up.
Sure. I want us to really put a close to this, but I just remembered something. I saw Kenyans Online yesterday, posting forms of, deregistering from the IEBC register of voters because of reasons they're giving. And of course, we understand that the 4 dissenting commissioners I was told the majority might not, when we say dissenting, a majority cannot dissent. I don't know if you help me understand that particular bit of the law. But those 4 commissioners who went, a different way, yesterday released a statement saying they also respect, the outcome of the court, and they respect the chairperson. I mean, what does this indicate of the constitution of IEBC? Even as we close, talk also a little bit about Kenyans having the ability to register, and what gives them, the reason and ability to do that.
When you put something into a pressure, it has to work that, and you have to blow it out. And I think the registration thing, which you're talking about from the list, was just a manifestation of maybe the pressure or the dissatisfaction some voters may have had in the process, and I think they're entitled to their view. But I think on Tuesday, if their leaders show otherwise, things will be different. And I think the converse is true, because also these leaders told through their words or conduct, said otherwise. Remember, every person has followers, however small or many they are. They will be on the streets. But I think that tells you the quality of our leaders matters. And a leader, you have a lot of duty of care on the people you lead. Because any word from the president, any word from the Azimio candidate would easily have ignited a very dicey question. And I think the president did a good thing, because he opted to keep mute for quite a while until this particular position, and even the Azimio leader. Those are things that cannot go unmentioned, and they cannot things that I can leave your show without commending the 2 great patriots. Yes.
What about the IEBC?
The IEBC, if you look at the petition from 2022, one of the prayers that, in the pleadings that were in court, they talked about Gustavo and 4 others. Gustavo was from Venezuelan people who are alleged to be the country legally, and they wanted their statements that were taken by the DCA to be brought into court, and they felt that would have affected the process. And the 4 IEBC commissioners also were very clear that the process was good until the tail end. But I think they failed to tie how the tail end position affected the outcome. I think that something should happen and should be go on record to the viewer and to this show, because yes, they dissented with the chairman and the opaqueness that they talked about, but it was not very clear at what juncture they realized the opaqueness, or what test was used to measure the opaqueness, or what measures could have been taken to cure it. Because it's an administrative issue in the boardroom, we don't have to agree, just like in corporate governance. So that's why people vote. Majority will have their way, minority will have their say. Simple majority of the memorandum dictates so. But this one was a very different one, because the returning officer for the presidential election is the chairperson. So that the question is, who also checks these all-powerful IEBC chairman? And those are things that were put into context by the court. So therefore, by them giving that statement, it also cures a big question. Because IEBC is an ongoing body, which is mandated to do other things over an election. They also have the mandate to do with voter sensitization and education. So by them saying that they are ready to work, it will also give the question about the cohesiveness of the body moving forward. Because even if we disagreed with you, Vincent, today, it doesn't mean that you have to resign, unless the differences are so inconsiderable that the divorce have to happen. Even in any divorce proceedings, the court would be wishing to know, have you tried maybe to even separate for a while before you come? Because quitting is a last resort. So that now, if they are, by that statement, it should be put in the context that they will be still commissioners and they still want to proceed with their work. Of course, the people who've won may have a different view. We don't know whether they may open a commission of inquiry when Parliament opens, they may want to revisit, but those are things best left at that. So moving forward, I think we are likely to see more people coming out and accepting the outcome, but not necessarily agreeing with it, which is good for democracy because our people need to go back to work and people want to have something in their pockets. And the only way to have that is through continuity.
Yeah. Lots of lessons to take from the 2022 general elections going forward, both particularly in the process and in the institutions in place. But I want us now to take, a gear higher and look at what we expect of, Ruto's government. I know you're not a politician as much, but you can speak a little bit on politics because politics is life, as they say. Let's look at what we foresee, the new regime coming in. First of all, what are they taking over? Of a look at, I was looking in the paper today talking about around 500 something, billion of pending bills that needs to be cleared, and that is part of what the new regime is going to tackle. How difficult of a job is it taking over from the Jubilee government, if we may call it?
Excellent. Excellent for that very relevant question. I think that question has to be looked into the answer of the one carrying the baton. I think the president-elect has pronounced himself that he has no time to set a personal course. They roll up their sleeves, the work is cut out, they have a lot of work to do. And I think that's the truth. For 4 reasons. One, as you've put correctly, we have a lot of pending bills. We have a very huge debt ceiling, and which need to be addressed. We have over 6 million unemployed youths who need to be looked into. We have several unfinished projects that need to be addressed. So that the new president-elect and his administration have to look this thing in a very broad perspective in terms of, one, the manifesto, because the manifesto is a roadmap of what you want to do when you're in office. Of course, there are things that you may want to do within 100 days in office. And I think some of them may be, one, win the public confidence in terms of our institutions. I think that's something they have really pronounced themselves in terms of the CID, EACC, because you've seen before that people who are not necessarily subscribing to a particular line of political persuasions, they alleged, or we saw, that maybe those institutions were used, or they told us they were used to harass them, including KRA. So that if he's able to win that public confidence that these institutions are independent bodies, that's something that would be very, very welcomed. And how do we do that? One of them have to be borrowed from the Judiciary Fund, which was recently granted. And I think that's something that people are not talking about, but it also emboldened the judiciary. Because when you have your own budget, Vincent, you're able to run your own affairs. You don't have to be calling the treasury to give you the money at goodwill. The other thing that maybe he could also address is a question about release of funds to the counties. Because I'm aware that, like myself, I'm a legal practitioner. I've done work for a few counties, and I'm made to be paid my legal fees. When I keep asking, I'm told the money is yet to come from treasury. And I think I'm one of their many suppliers who have to be paid. So if he's able to release,
you make money, part of the pending bills. You also
yes, and many other practitioners and many other Kenyans who offer services to our counties. So if the money is released, we're able to pay our people for the services they've offered and for the goods that they've supplied. Thirdly, within the 100 days, I think the president should look into the question about constituting a working cabinet. Because remember, we had like 2 arms of government in the last 4 years. One is being run through Executive Order number 1, I think, the one that gave Matiang'i the power to run, which now gave the Deputy President a functionless office. So we hope that is also going to give actual roles to His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, actual roles, and the team that is there should actually assist the two in terms of realizing the goals, in terms of a working cabinet. And I think he's been told he's a great worker, and I think that energy can be translated to his lieutenants. Lastly, and most importantly, is the question that needs to be addressed with extreme urgency is the need of reviving our economy. Because remember, our people are very hardworking people. What they need is an environment for them to get something into their pockets and for them to fund their children. So that now, if the economy is opened up in very simple ways, the issue to do with goods coming from overseas should be looked into. The issue for imports and exports should be looked into. Like they used to have mitumbas, those kind of things. And most importantly, an environment that is geared towards business-friendly environment, so that Kenyans can be rated as the most happy people as they did when Kibaki took into place. So I think within 100 days, the measures of happiness, or the institution that measure happiness to people, maybe should visit us within 3 months from to date, and check the happiness levels if some of these things are addressed.
Yeah. And of course, during his address, just after the pronouncement by the Supreme Court, our journalist asked him, the president-elect, on what he intends to do in 100 days, in the first 100, and he was very non-committal on what he intends to do. Comparing to what, in contrast actually to what he used to do when he was in the campaigning trail, he was very open. In my 100 days, I'll deliver unga wa 100 and so many things that he promised. Do you think he has come to the reality that things are easier said than done when it comes to, running a government that is, the economy is not doing so well, a lot of, pending bills, as we said, and over the roof debt.
Excellent, Vincent. I think we should draw a line between mere rhetoric in campaigns and actual work. And I think the president-elect means well for this country on two spheres. One is, if you look at the history, because you can check the future of a person by where they are and where they've come from. Remember, like the question about when he was Minister for Education, he reduced the 2 years gap period. People stay from the university, and now you have the transition immediately. And the question about agriculture, the fertilizers came down during his tenure. Those are some of the good things that maybe you have to give credit to him. Of course, there are other things that you may think contrary. The 100 days question is a mantra that is used in advanced democracies and in campaign strategy for purposes of sensitizing your people what you can achieve. It may mean two things. It may mean the actual figure of 100 days, or it may mean the actual face of your administration. So that now, it is very important that he also acts presidential. And I think he did that by that question that he did, because now he's no longer a candidate. Those are two different things. He's not the president-elect. On Tuesday, he'll be the president. So that the choice of words and what to commit to people will be put into perspective and into context. What I think we need to do is that since a considerable number of Kenyans have given him the mandate, we just be vigilant, we just be patient, and we support our new administration towards at least helping our young people and boosting our economy.
Yeah. Even as we conclude, because I know time is not on our side, can we talk about a little bit on how of a task the president-elect has to constitute a working cabinet. Remember that he was in an administration in 2013 where they had an agreement of 50-50 in terms of positioning the cabinet, and that did not work so well in 2013 through 2017. In 2017 it was purely now the president in charge. Right now, in his campaigns, in the way he has worked, he's given a lot of promises on how he's going to, dish out, if I may call it, these positions, cabinet slots here and there, and make sure that his lieutenants are happy. Those that have supported him through through the period. How difficult is it going to ensure, all these pre-election pacts are adhered to?
You come in contrast in terms of the formations that we're likely to have.
Yeah.
It is said that we had a 50-50 arrangement in terms of the government in 2013 when they took over power. I don't think that is the position now, based on the conduct and what we hear, that maybe Rigathi also may be asking 50% of the share. because the Mount Kenya voting bloc has to be looked in a very broad way, whether it was brought by Rigathis candidature, like they brought the votes from Rift Valley in 2013, or the candidate or the votes from Mount Kenya came out of the industry and the hard work of the deputy president. All those things are open to the jury to find. The question about distribution of position have to be looked at. The government is a very big institution which can absorb most of these people who may have supported him. Of course, not everybody may get whatever they are yearning for, but it should also have a face of Kenya that should go on record, because the face of Kenya is also part of our national unity mantra and part of our psyche as a people. So that all these people who are getting towards the president, he may want to consider a few things that I think there's some few considerations he may have. It's about the competency of some of these individuals. Some of them have been governors. That can be put into the context, because you can look at what they did when they were in office as governors. Some of them have served as speaker before. You can also maybe see what bills they assisted in passing the bill. And because they also had a working relationship before, you may want to put into the context of the temperament of some of these people. Some of them have been finance ministers. He may consider them calm, cool, and collected. He may want to opt them. Some of them are legal scholars. They have represented him in the ICC and other legal spheres. He may want to give them an area which is alive to their competency. And by and large, loyalty, because that's something that has to be looked in a very broad way, because also loyalty matters in terms of the decades that you give, because it boils down to the allegiance you have, because you want a team that is going to deliver. And remember that we are happening, our transition is happening at a phase whereby the expectations are very high. I don't think there is any other president that people expect more than His Excellency William Samoei Ruto in terms of the expectations or what they don't know. So that on one hand, the expectations are very high. On another hand, you also have those who are not aware what may transpire. So now he needs to put this thing into equilibrium, and I think we are hoping for a good journey, and it may be a roller coaster, because things that he needs to do are many, and the things that he needs to cure are equally numerous.
So he'll have to get his priorities right.
Absolutely.
Going forward. Even as we conclude, I want us to, I want to mention the names, just read through what the nation has written here today. On the eyes of the cabinet, we have Musalia Mudavadi, who we know they signed a pact. He will be, or is supposed to be, the prime cabinet secretary in this particular government. And then we have Dave Chirichiri, the chief of staff, right now in the office of the deputy president. He's a very close confidant of the deputy president, of the president-elect, and we believe it's going to be given a position that is would match that closeness that they have. Then there is the they call him Justin Muturi is a speaker. What? There's that name.
National Assembly.
Yes, National Assembly Speaker. They call it Ame what? That's the name they use, for a person who was and who is no longer. And we have Kithure Kindiki, and we have Alfred Mutua, Moses Kuria, Bab Namwamba. Emeritus. That's what I was looking for. So you speak emeritus, Justin Muturi. And we have Moses Kuria, of course, Abab Namwamba, Josephat Nanok, Salim Mvurya, Feristo Biko. These are very close, people in the circles of the president-elect. And of course, in the National Assembly, as we read, there's Moses Wetangula and Amason King for the Senate, Hassan Umar for the Senate as well, Gladys Sholei for the Deputy Speaker, Senate. He has a lot at his hand to ensure that he keeps all his lieutenants happy. And, as you said, ensuring a national face in his cabinet. We wish him the best. We would like to see what happens next week after he's sworn in, because that is then the wheels will begin rolling. So I want to say thank you very much for coming, sir. Bwana Peter Njage, who is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya and a mediator Today we've at least got to understand what that term means in his title, and it's a big one for that matter, because it's now used in the law, corridors more than we thought it was. Thank you for coming. We'll invite you more and more to come and help us understand, help our viewers understand what constitutionally running the government looks like, and what to expect going forward in even the first tenure of His Excellency, now the President-elect, William Ruto, who will be President next Tuesday. Remember, next Tuesday will be gazetted as a public holiday, as per the words yesterday from the head of public service, Joseph Kinyua. We expect that to be done somewhere around this week, and then we plan ourselves and get to celebrate and transit to a new government. There's always some fresh air that comes with the new governance.
Absolutely.
And so we believe this is going to be the case.
Change is like rest. Let's give him the benefit
of the doubt, for that matter. Your last words, even as we close.
My last word is that I wish to thank Kirk TV and you, Vincent, for granting me this opportunity to help our people. I think that's very, very formidable. I'm also a member of PCA St. Andrews.
Oh, great.
So when I'm here, I'm home. And I also need to say that in terms of our country, I think you're moving very well as a democracy, because when the leaders come and say they accept the outcome, but they do not necessarily agree with it, and that is very, very good. I think now as a people, we just need to be more vigilant to ensure we have checks and balances. Not everybody has to be in government, because even our government needs a strong and a formidable position. We give credit where it's due, and we also criticize where you're supposed to criticize. So I think that's very good, and I think the show was very good for our people. Asante sana.
Karibu sana. That is it. We want to call it a day here at Kirk in the Morning on Wednesday. Tomorrow is Kirk Mid Morning with my colleague Faith Kaulu. I know she's preparing a super show for you. You only need to keep your eyes and ears here on Kirk TV. Continue watching and enjoying our programming going forward. I know you've seen a little bit of new things on TV. Keep giving us feedback and what you think we should add more in the content that we want to serve you. My name is Vincent Kirosi. I'll see you again next time, God willing, and have a good day and a week ahead, even as you prepare to enjoy the inauguration and swearing in of the new government next Tuesday. Kwaheri, ciao.
Are you looking to grow your business? Kirk TV offers you a variety of advertising opportunities to suit your budget. Advertise with us today and reach your potential customers countrywide. For more information, email us on sales@kirktv.org or call 011 00